Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual. My name is Doug Neill, and today I'm going to try to learn how to use Procreate's animation tool. I've been using Procreate for quite some time now for my digital sketchnoting when I want to take notes on a tablet in order to be able to make use of things like layers and erasing, and exploring how I might develop a workflow that works well for me when I want to take notes with this digital tool, or maybe create some presentation materials. And it's more in that latter category, in the idea sharing category, that I'm intrigued by Procreate's animation tool, something that I haven't experimented with at all. But particularly after watching Lisa Bardot's videos about Procreate in general, but the animation tool in particular, it's got me really excited about kind of using that style, incorporating moving text and images, merging that with sketchnoting, which is all about sketching out ideas, using words and images together. I feel like there's something really interesting that might happen at the intersection there. Creating relatively simple animations with words and pictures that you sketch out by hand with the purpose of sharing a particular idea. So my plan today is to try to do that, and the idea that I'm going to be sketching out comes from this book by Lisa Congdon, Find Your Artistic Voice. I enjoy Lisa's work quite a bit. She happens to live in the same city as me, Portland, Oregon, and the particular idea that I'd like to create an animation from comes from early in the book, exploring the idea of what an artistic voice is and identifying these different aspects of it, like style, skill, subject matter, medium, and consistency. And as I was first reading this book and noticing kind of how Lisa decided to sketch out these ideas, create these kind of titles here, as I was looking at these, they made me think of flower petals. And I thought it might be kind of cool to summarize these 5 components in a flower-based diagram where each of these components is one of the petals of that flower in this 2D picture. So the animation that I can see in my mind right now is this growing flower that then kind of sprouts these petals with each component of your voice, and then some sort of title that just says your voice in the middle of it. Something like that. So to me, that sounds like a fun first test of using this new tool to try to create this real simple animation that kind of summarizes a set of ideas that I'd like to remember and share in this case. By the way, I'm coming to you from my new home office here, still getting some things set up. I'm back in a basement again, which I actually am excited about. My friends sometimes make fun of me because I chose this small place in the basement of this new house that my wife Shelby and I just bought. New to us, fairly old overall, but we like it. And this was actually the basement workshop of the previous owner. And I'm doing some work slowly to make it feel less basement-y, a little bit more homey. So you'll probably be seeing this space in more of these videos, and chances are what you see will evolve here. I think I'd like to get a bookshelf up here on this back wall. I've got a reading couch down there, which I'm enjoying. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Let's start using Procreate. All right, so here's the first little test of what I've done so far. I actually really like it. I like how relatively simple it is to create something like this. It is fairly repetitive, but it goes pretty quickly. And I think I'm just about ready to make the flower bloom. And then I'm not quite sure the mechanics of kind of turning the petals into words and whether to have the words written inside the petals or to create the petals in such a way that it makes the words, if that makes sense. Let me just try it. Okay, so I'm pretty excited about how this is coming together. Let me walk you through what I've been doing. So once I felt pretty good about how the flower was growing from the ground, I decided to create the final frame. That's what this here is. You've got each of the 5 components of voice in one of the flower petals, each a different color, with the words fitting within the shape like that. And from there, it's been a process of working from this point right here to the end. And it's taken some time, but it's pretty cool even just to see this come together like that. I think I'm going to take a little break here and then work on this over time throughout today and tomorrow maybe, and just continuing to fill in the frame to get from here to here. I guess I'm not that far away from it. And then what will be interesting to see is doing something within these intermediate frames, something with white pen strokes so that it doesn't just pop with those words at the end, but that those also kind of grow organically from about this point on. As soon as those petals start to grow, I want there to be some wisps of the white lettering starting to come together. So that's my next task, but I think I might go on a walkabout, take this thing with me to a coffee shop or two, and continue working on it from there. But I'll check in to let you know how that goes. All right, it's a couple of days later, so let me show you the work that I did and how this animation turned out. So getting the flower petals to full size was a pretty easy task. It got a little bit trickier when just trying to make those words come together, not from scratch. And I kind of did the lowest energy version of that as possible, just adding kind of some squiggles to those flower petals as they grow, and then they go straight from here to the words themselves. So I could have spent more time trying to make that transition a little bit smoother, but I wasn't sure if that time spent would be worth it. As you can see along the lower timeline here, I also am using the feature here of holding on a single frame for a certain period of time, in this case holding it for 15 frames. That's because I wanted to give folks the chance to see and kind of read those words since they just popped up. And then I decided to add a couple more things, really just for fun. And in this case, I wanted to slide in 2 kind of static images. So for these next 2 pieces, there's not a whole lot of animation going on. I'm just sliding in one image and then another. And the first image that I slide in is a hand holding a book. That book is the source of the idea that I'm sharing here, Find Your Artistic Voice by Lisa Congdon. And then kind of as a signature on the other side of the screen, underneath the flower petals, I brought in another hand holding a pencil with just my Instagram handle on it. And for that, I kind of drew the final frame first in each of those cases, and then just did some duplicating of layers and moving kind of that one image to the left until it was out of the frame. I kind of built that up in reverse so that you could see it sliding in. And then again with that very last frame, I have that one hold for 30 frames in this case. And it's pretty fun to experiment with the kind of export tools here. Animated GIF, animated PNG, animated MP4. I have yet to actually post these anywhere as I'm recording this, and I know that depending on where you post it, you might have to export it in a certain format. If I'm remembering correctly from the Bardo Brush video, I think animated GIFs will work well on Twitter. That's kind of what Twitter strength is. But for something like Instagram, you might need an MP4, like an actual video file, as opposed to a GIF. But in terms of previewing it, I think the MP4 preview happens quicker, and it's really fun to see what this looks like. And I kind of would use used this export tool preview thing as I was building up all of those frames and putting it all together, just to get a sense for how it was coming together. And I think that's one of the strengths of using a tool like this for your animations, is just how easy it is to check how it's coming along, and then depending on how it looks, you can add more frames here and there, you can hold longer on this frame or that frame, and those edits are quick and easy to make. So even though creating this type of animation takes more time than if I were just to create a static image sketch note of something like this frame right here, for me at least, it's an enjoyable enough process, and the outcome of it is interesting enough that it's something that I plan to continue doing. And I see a couple of specific continued applications that I'm going to keep exploring. One is definitely single frame, relatively simple sketches of a particular idea from an author or a podcast interview, something like that. I think these types of GIFs are well suited for Twitter and Instagram, so that's where I plan to share those. Come follow along there if you aren't already. I also see potential in using this type of animation tool for longer YouTube videos, something more like 5 to 10 minutes. That will take a considerable amount of time and effort to create a even just 5-minute video using this animation style, but I'm curious to see how that goes. And I'm going to be on the lookout for creating some future sketchnoting lesson, or maybe just idea sharing video in this format. And instead of going with a square frame, go with the typical kind of wide and short frame for these videos here. So in summary, I think that there is a lot of fun to be had with this tool. I think that for a lot of people, it's going to be by far the easiest entry point into the world of animation because of how stripped down Procreate has made this animation tool, but at the same time, how much functionality there still is. So if you decide to make your own animation with this tool, do share it with me. Also, if you've got any other follow-up questions that I didn't address in this video about this type of animation, let me know. And if you're totally new to the world of sketching out ideas, then check out my free guide, Getting Started with Sketchnoting. That'll give you a good overview of what this world is all about and some practice activities to get you started. I've linked to that down below, so check it out. Also, go check out this great book, Find Your Artistic Voice, and the channel Bardo Brush. Having checked out a couple of the Procreate videos, I'm now digging into the ones about drawing faces and eyes and bodies. And I even went and picked up a brush kit. I think the mid-century illustration one, because it just looks cool. So it's nice to have some new brushes to use within Procreate as well. So I will continue experimenting here and let you know how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun playing around with these tools yourself, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until then.